Hello and welcome to She TV, the place women come to become powerfully feminine from the inside out. Our topic today is slave or serve. Are you really free? So before we jump in here today, I want to invite you into a really exciting event. Next Monday, I'm going to be doing a masterclass 3 times in the day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. in which you can join me in an hour-and-a-half masterclass in which I'm going to discuss the 3 massive mistakes that women make that keep them overwhelmed, exhausted, and heading to burnout. I'm going to share with you what I call the 5 core feminine arts. I'm going to show you how to get back into your feminine power. So I encourage you to click on the link above or below in the description box, because I would love you to join me in one of those 3 masterclasses. Now, when you actually enroll in this, I'm also going to be sending you daily emails with a daily video also. So you're going to get up to 6 different videos in which I show you through some of these myths that we've carried as women about feminine power. So you know that the core model that we work with here in the Powerfully Feminine work is that of the 4 feminine archetypes. And I've spoken a bit about the false feminine and the true feminine, and yet I haven't spoken a lot about the maid. Okay, I haven't spoken a lot about the maid. And the thing that I want to remind all of us in the way this model is used, it's a model, it's a way to kind of experience yourself through, see other people through, but not through the eyes of any sort of criticism or judgment or put down. Now, this is important because I want to emphasize that we all go into the false feminine at times. We all have the 4 feminine archetypes inside of us for all sorts of reasons, okay? We get triggered and then we fall into the false feminine. We get triggered, we go into the princess and she gets defensive and, you know, starts fighting. Or we get triggered and we fall into the collapse of the unworthiness of the maid, okay? And then there's times that we stand in the true feminine, in the queen, or even standing up more spiritually in the priestess, okay? So I want to remind you that this model must not be used in a derisive way. It's a way to help you define something that was probably undefined before and lacked a lot of clarity. Okay, so my provocative title today is Slave or Serve, Are You Really Free? So why I started with this provocative title is that I just want to be clear, when we fall into the false feminine or whether we're stuck in the false feminine, we are not free. We're not free as women, we're not free as human beings. And so the reason why I created these 4 archetypes is because there's different flavors of the false feminine in the maid and the princess, and there's different flavors of the true feminine in the queen and the priestess. And so as you work with me over time, they are going to become more clear to you as you observe it in others and as you feel it in yourself. As my spiritual teacher always used to say, it's much easier to see things in other people first before you can see it in yourself. Okay, so today we're talking about the maid archetype. And I realized even myself was avoiding going to talk too much about the maid because it's probably the most uncomfortable experience we have as women, is when we fall into the maid. So the maid is the slave in this scenario. She's enslaved inside of her own mind. She's enslaved inside of her own beliefs. The catchphrase of the maid is, I'm not worthy. It's the phrase that is unconsciously behind all of her beliefs. And I encourage you to take the Feminine Archetypes quiz that I will post here below. And the idea of that is that you take the Feminine Archetypes quiz and it shows you like a snapshot of your dominant archetype now and today. So if this underlying belief inside of the maid is I'm not worthy, she is by definition in an enslaved positioning to her life, to her world, to her communications, to her relationships. She is not free. She does not have free will whilst that thought form, whilst that idea dominates her existence. Now, in contrast, And then you're thinking serve. Isn't serve just another form of slavery? If I'm serving, aren't I also enslaved somehow? The only way you can truly serve is from the true feminine, is the ability to serve from a place of freedom, of free will, of relationship to the divine, to your own divine nature. You then are able to serve a community, a tribe, serve the divine itself, or in fact serve your family. And so I see service as one of the highest functions truly of the priestess. The thing about service is it's a grace to be able to serve, and we can only serve from the true feminine. Effectively what I'm positioning here is the maid with her underlying unconscious inner belief system of I am not worthy, propelling all of her thoughts, actions and motions. Okay, so think about it. If you have this ongoing unconscious belief system that I'm not worthy of love, that I'm not worthy of success, that I'm not worthy of a rich, supportive, loving relationship, that I'm not worthy of divine love. Once they are going on in the background of your consciousness, can you see that it creates a bit of a downward spiral? And the thing that I want you to understand is when we fall into the maid, we become a bit inaccessible. And I am saying we, because I have absolutely experienced the maid at phases in my life, and there's times I will fall into it. Something happens that doesn't go the way we want to, and something gets, triggered inside, and then we collapse. I always say that the false feminine is a certain collapse of consciousness. I'm just giving you some more framework from which to see and understand how this could be so for you. We are a slave when we're in any of the false feminine. The princess has her own version of being enslaved because she constantly feels like she has to fight for what she wants. She constantly feels in an antagonistic relationship to life and the world around her, okay, where she feels outside of life somehow. And to the contrary, the true feminine is very inside herself. As I say, this entire work of becoming powerfully feminine is about becoming powerfully feminine from the inside out. And in order for that to happen, we have to go into the darkness. We have to be able to see the things that obstruct us from our light, that obstruct us from the ability to stand tall in your queen, to stand up fully in the priestess eventually. These things come through learning how to be centered inside of yourself and to love the good, the bad, and the ugly inside of ourselves. The maid is so judgmental of herself. She judges herself worse and more harshly than anybody else ever can or ever could. So in order to progress toward the true feminine, toward the queen and the priestess, we have to have a strong aspect of compassion, self-love, self-care, because those things start to soften that sort of turned in on ourselves, turned away from our light, turned away from help, whether it's human or divine. So when we bring self-love and compassion, we start to soften something inside of ourselves. We start to bring love toward that inside of ourselves. And when we can identify, I've fallen into the maid, that's so painful. And rather than becoming punitive toward yourself, judging more harshly, collapsing more in yourself, what if you were to go, okay, the maid's being struck. What if I was gentle with myself right now, rather than going down that spiral? And I can promise you that is a start that will start to move you back into your queen, because in fact, it is the queen inside you that can do that for the false feminine inside yourself. It can bring compassion and self-love and self-care to your own maid and princess. Today we've spoken about the maid and this concept of the movement from slave or enslavement towards service, which is that of actually freedom. the way that we want to be able to serve that which we love, which may be our community, it may be our tribe, it may be our family, it may be our lover, it may be our business, when we have stood up in freedom in the true feminine. And remember, if you want to dive in deeper about some of these myths, mistakes, misconceptions that we've all had around feminine power, I encourage you to join my live masterclass next Monday. You can join that with the link above or down in the description box. And I look forward to seeing you there at one of the 3 times that I'm conducting the masterclass next Monday. And remember, when you have the courage to go out there and shine, you give others permission to do the same. So let's go out there and shine this week. Bye-bye for now.